Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions. This is a daily reading for January the 9th. The purpose of this reading is to give you just a little bit of brief overall guidance for the day. If you're looking for a more general reading, check out my monthly readings on my channel. And if you're new to pick a card readings, the way this is going to work is that you will choose one of these three piles, and then you will scroll down to the description and click on the timestamp corresponding to your choice, and it'll skip ahead in the video to your personalized reading. Now, this video, I do want to ask a favor of anyone watching. If you would, I'm trying to debate on whether or not to go, instead of doing these daily 3-card readings, I'm debating doing weekly full 10-card Celtic Cross readings. I like the Celtic Cross readings a little bit more. I get into some kind of more depth, and I feel like you can still get a lot of good general advice throughout the week by rewatching a longer reading like that, rather than doing these daily readings every day. I have a daughter on the way as well, so I'm kind of thinking that it might be better for that situation if I'm not trying to record readings every day. So please just let me know what you think about that. If anybody really enjoys the daily readings and would prefer them to the weekly readings, please feel free to tell me, and I will take that into consideration. Now, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of silence so that you can meditate on your choice before we start. And the crystals that I've given you here to help aid in your decision today are fluorite in pile number 1 here. This one is aura quartz. And this is apophyllite. Very bright stone there. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin the 30 seconds, and when you're done, we can move on to the reading that you've selected. Okay, so if you have not already done so, please go ahead and make your selection and scroll down to the description to find the timestamp for your card, and go ahead and skip ahead to your reading. Keep in mind, if you are attracted to more than one card, that is completely fine. Follow your intuition here. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin with card number 1. And card number 1 is the fluorite. If you chose it, I'm going to move these all up a little bit so I can show you the spread. So you have the 9 of Cups, which is very good, positive. That's also called the Wish card. The 6 of Cups and the Queen of Cups. So 3 cups here. The Queen of Cups is in the reverse. So the 9 of Cups, I mentioned, this is called the Wish card very often. So it's an optimistic place. So the reason that the 9 is called the Wish card, really, instead of like the 10, right? You think of the 10 as the completion of emotional fulfillment and cycles and things like that. But the 9 is called the Wish card because there's still that one thing that can, can kind of solve your heart's desires, that you can be given that sort of happily ever after. And if you're in that 10, you already have that happily ever after. So the 9 is that last step that is required for you to reach that 10. And it's kind of a message that the one thing that has to fall into place in order for you to reach that sort of fairy tale ending is for you to really believe that it's possible, for you to wish upon a star, so to speak, and to have that sort of childlike faith that things can happen for you. And that really it tends to cut through perhaps ages of calcified cynicism where you've been treated badly in the world or disrespected, and you've become accustomed to that, and you've or things as simple as feeling like you have to work to be worth something, or to earn everything good that ever happens to you, and not to expect anything to just happen by chance, right? All those things, those beliefs have to kind of be shed in order for you to really reach that Ten of Cups energy. So the wish card asks you to make your wish, to figure out how to move past those self-doubts and that the feeling of a lack of self-worth, and to realize that anything really is possible and that you do deserve to be happy. Now the energy that's challenging you here is the Six of Cups. If you can see that. This artwork is a little bit tinier, so it's kind of hard to see what's going on. Let's see if I hold it back. So, Six of Cups. In this, it's a lovely little tea party going on. And there is some reminiscing of bygone times. This is a very nostalgic card, looking at, the things that happened in your childhood, how it was a brighter time and you had more to look forward to, and you imagined all these wonderful things. So crossing you may find yourself kind of like going back to those ideas, and it may have worked out differently than you expected it to, and that may be a challenge for you to sort of invite the new goodness into your life. Someone very dear to me had very, very high aspirations when they were much younger, and put a lot of pressure on themselves to achieve those things. But those things were not set in stone. It took a lot. There were things that kind of required a lot of luck to accomplish, and it wasn't really just anything that you can guarantee by virtue of your own work. And later in life, they became a little bit more bitter and cynical because those things did not work out. And so that's the result of, having these really bright images about what you want out of life. And then when life doesn't go down that path, you have to be open to some other form of happiness. So this is kind of a challenge for you with this Nine of Cups energy to, instead of clinging to a particular idea for the future, or making your wish something that's unrealistic. In the example I was giving you a second ago, this person wanted to be a very famous musician, and they didn't really put the work in over the years to actually accomplish that. So when you get later on in life and you haven't put that work in, you can't really expect to be that famous musician. So you have to kind of work toward your goals, or you have to be at least attempting to make something happen. And that wish card is going to be a lot more effective in granting a wish that you have at least had the amount of faith that you were working toward that goal in order to achieve it. If you've at least had that amount of faith, this wish card tends to be a lot more effective, right? So, on the one hand here, this is asking you to make your wish upon a star, to have faith that things can happen. On the other hand, it's challenging you to sort of let go of some of the ideas that didn't work out, and instead ask yourself, right now, what do I want now? After all that I've been through, how has my life changed me, and what is it that I'm actually after now? And that's what you really should be wishing on. And the deal is, if you're not moving toward those things that you're wishing for, then that's the first step in kind of fixing your orientation toward life, is that you have to at least be working toward the things that you want, even if it'll take a long time, even if it'll take decades. You have to at least be putting some effort in moving that direction. Now the advice for you here is the Queen of Cups in the reverse again. So the Queen of Cups is typically really good at managing her emotions. So in the reverse, it could be that there's been some difficulty with that. So this can mean, don't let strong emotional reactions to the things that have happened to you knock you off course from essentially maintaining this disposition. And it's not to reject your emotions. It's not to suppress them. It is to feel them and to some extent at least release those things or act on them even. But what happens is, if you suppress these things, they build up and they build up and they become more violent outbursts, which can be counterproductive. Your emotions are a good thing. They're there for a reason, and they're meant to guide your behavior, but if you kind of don't let them flow, then a lot of times you can get into a point where there's like overcorrection, right? So like, think about driving a car. If you're starting to run off of the road, then you need to correct, but if you overcorrect, then you might end up running into somebody head on, and that's really bad, right? So there is definitely a need for correcting with this sort of moderation, but still finding a way to release the pressure that your emotions are building, and to be honest with yourself and with others, and that'll help you out quite a bit here. A little bit of a deeper reading here. I kind of feel like this deck tends to be that way, but that's it for pile number 1. So we're going to go ahead and move on to pile number 2. And this is for if you chose the Aura Quartz. So, for the Aura... Sorry, I keep accidentally hitting the space button. For the Aura Quartz, you have the Justice card in the reverse, the Knight of Swords, and the King of Wands in the reverse. Okay, so Justice in the reverse here suggests that there is something going on where it's not really been necessarily fair, or there's a lack of justice in this situation. So you were expecting things to work a certain way, or you were hoping that it would work out in your favor, that you would be judged well or fairly. Hasn't really happened that way. Something's going on that's not really justice. It's a little unfair, and so that can be a frustrating situation, but it's also an opportunity for you to, well, let me put it this way. Recently I found that there was an injustice in my own life. There was something that happened for somebody else, and it should have happened for me instead. And I felt a little upset about that at first, but after allowing the situation to unfold a little bit longer, it turned out to be massively in my benefit that it worked out the way that it did, and I still ended up getting basically what I was owed. So, these things are not always what they look like on the surface. Justice, there's always scales, and I don't know if you can see it because of the tiny artwork, but she's holding a pair of scales. So there's always this idea of balance occurring with justice. So the temptation is to take justice into your own hands a lot of times when things don't work out right, to try to force the scales to balance. But that is not only unnecessary, but what it tends to do is to throw the things further out of balance, or to, if it does balance the situation, what it does is it takes your part, which is, unfair, and you do some things that make it a little bit more fair. You kind of prove the case that you shouldn't have got that. when you think you should have, right? So the best way forward through this is to simply accept the result, knowing that in due time all things come back, or what goes around comes around, right? Having faith in the idea that this balance, if it's thrown out, it has nowhere to go but back to a sort of level place. So don't view a situation where there is like an injustice perpetrated on you as an opportunity for you to sort of prove that injustice right. Don't prove that you don't deserve those things, right? Instead, maintain the high road, and given sometimes even just a little bit more time, it becomes clear that the situation actually did work out the way that it was supposed to. For the Knight of Swords, this is what's crossing you. So this, and ironically, this kind of reflects on the situation I was talking about as well. The Knight of Swords jumps in. He's witty, he's intelligent, but he doesn't think it all the way through. So he can feel as though he has the ability to mentally work the situation out, or to convince people, or to lead people in a particular direction, or to even manipulate them. He can think he has that ability, but and he is pretty good at the mental realm. But what can happen is this tends to not go off without a hitch. He tends to make some mistakes because he jumps in a little bit too quickly, and there's an impatience about this, and that can be what kind of hurts you in this situation. Again, I'm coming back to feeling like if somebody's done you wrong, don't go proving them right by making yourself less dignified or less deserving of what you deserved in the first place but didn't get, right? Or apply that idea just more broadly to your situation here. Now, advice for you here is the Knight of Wands in the reverse. So, you know, Knight of Wands is typically somebody who jumps in immediately and acts before thinking even. There's no real hesitation. But as the result of that, while the knight is typically good at acting or skilled, a lot of times the outcome of his actions are not exactly what he intended. So it's not that he's unsuccessful, but it's like things don't exactly work out because he hasn't put a lot of thought into what he's doing or the purpose behind it. So whereas the Knight of Swords has a tendency to think things through, but in a too quick way without fully knowing the circumstances, or just is a little too quick to think. The Knight of Wands doesn't really think about the outcome at all. He just does. He goes for it. And so this is given to you in the reverse for your advice, suggesting to kind of pull back the reins a little bit. Resist acting very quickly here. Give the situation some time to breathe. Give the situation a little bit of time for it to reveal itself more fully to you, because there is definitely going to be some things that are not known right now at this very moment. There's going to be some things that you may fail to take into account if you jump in really quickly here. So all of the signs are pointing toward, you know, take a breath, take a beat, and figure out what's going on before you decide to make any sort of rash actions here. Okay, so that's about it for the card number 2. For card number 3, this is for if you chose the Apophyllite. And the Apophyllite is very bright stone. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, let's continue with the reading. Okay, so you got the Three of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, and the Page of Pentacles. Okay. So your Three of Cups. This is a friendly fellowship energy. There is generally quite a bit of emotional fulfillment here. And it's the result of being around good people, good friends. You're feeling some good, victorious kind of energy where things are working out pretty well. And it may not be in sort of the grand scheme of life, but you're happy with your immediate circumstances. You're happy with the people that you're around. You have some good friends, and it's been good to interact with them and talk with them. So happy place for you there. Crossing or challenging you is this Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, indicating a little bit of a resistance to the natural flow of time, and also the sort of seeming randomness of life. So there can be a feeling here like you want to control the unknown aspect of life and have that sense of safety and security, and kind of reinforce all the good feelings but never have to feel the more negative aspects. So that could be kind of what's creating a little bit of it. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of hardship in your life, but it could be a source of hardship for you to be resisting that sort of natural ebb and flow of life where, things come and things go, good things and bad things, right? Seasons pass. There's always this constant changing. The only constant in life is that everything is changing. And so that can cause you some stress if you're sort of resisting that flow. Or, there's a saying that I've used before that all suffering is essentially a resistance to the way things are. Now, that's not to say that sometimes you shouldn't resist the way things are. A lot of times it's perfectly right to resist the way things are, but it is still the source of suffering. It's the source of, at its very root of pretty much all suffering. Again, not that there's a moral implication to that. That's just the way it is. So your advice for the situation here is the Page of Pentacles. So this is asking you to essentially look for some new opportunity for financial investment or growth or something like that. The Page of Pentacles also, he's a messenger. He's a child, right? A child messenger that indicates that something within the physical realm is possible. There's a potential here. There's something that's it's not matured, but there is an opportunity for you to go down this path, for you to be able to experience some new physical reality. And a lot of times it has to do with money or investment, or, perhaps you've been renting a house for a long time and there is an opportunity for you to open up a savings account and start saving up a down payment. Maybe you've recently received some sort of a benefit that has made it easier for you to set some money aside. So, lay out a plan and figure out what you're going to do. Maybe open your own business, right? So, again, this doesn't indicate that there's going to be any sort of completion in these kind of goals on this day, but it does indicate that there is, in some way, a new opportunity that comes forth that it may be time to begin investing in, or to at least begin the planning phases, right? Okay, so that is about it for today's daily reading. And please, again, leave me some comments and let me know what you think about potentially going to a weekly 10-card reading instead of the daily 3-card reading. And keep in mind that those 10-card readings, if you want to know what they look like, my general readings are also on the channel for the monthly readings. And I would very much like you to check those out and see if you like that format better. There's a lot more depth of information that comes out of those things. So, let me know what you think. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the next daily reading. Have a good night.